The Wertheimer family controls a $100 billion luxury empire built on a handshake that went catastrophically wrong. When you buy a bottle of Chanel No. 5 perfume, you are not paying Coco Chanel's estate. You are paying the family that acquired 70% of the business in 1924, survived attempts to seize it during World War II, and converted that stake into over $100 billion in wealth. The Wertheimers now control the pricing of Veblen goods, employment in the fashion industry, and market dynamics in the global personal luxury goods market, worth approximately 1.5 trillion euros annually. In 1922, at the Longchamp racecourse in France, Théophile Bader, founder of the Galeries Lafayette department store, introduced Gabrielle Coco Chanel to Pierre Wertheimer. Chanel was 38, and she had just launched Chanel No. 5 perfume in 1921. The fragrance sold exclusively in her Paris boutiques to elite clientele. She wanted wider distribution. Pierre Wertheimer was 34. His family had built the largest and most successful cosmetic and fragrance company in France, Bourjois. His father, Ernest Wertheimer, had emigrated from Alsace to Paris in 1870 and purchased an interest in Bourjois, which by 1920 had become an international enterprise with operations in America. On April 16, 1924, they created Société des Parfums Chanel. The ownership split allocated 70% to Pierre Wertheimer, 20% to Théophile Bader, and 10% to Coco Chanel. Chanel licensed her name to the company and removed herself from all business operations. In exchange, she received a 2% share in annual income on perfume sales. The Wertheimers provided full financing for production, marketing, and distribution. Within 4 years, the relationship had deteriorated. By 1928, Chanel and the Wertheimers were in conflict. Chanel believed the Wertheimers were exploiting her creativity for their profit. She publicly called them bandits and stopped attending board meetings. In 1933, shareholders removed her from management and the board. In 1934, she hired a lawyer to renegotiate her 10% stake. The negotiations failed. In 1935, she filed a lawsuit and lost. For the next decade, Chanel fought to regain control of a company built on her name but owned by someone else. Then World War II arrived. Pierre and Paul Wertheimer fled to New York in 1940 as German troops advanced on Paris. Before leaving France, they legally transferred control of Parfums Chanel to Félix Amiot, owner of SNCAC, an aircraft manufacturer and a French industrialist. Amiot agreed to hold the company during the occupation and to protect it from seizure. During the war, the Wertheimers continued producing Chanel No. 5 at a factory in New Jersey. When the war ended, Amiot returned full control of both Parfums Chanel and Bourjois to the Wertheimer family. After the liberation of France, Chanel left for Switzerland. From Switzerland, Chanel launched her own perfume line to compete with Parfums Chanel. Pierre Wertheimer wanted to avoid a public court battle. In 1947, he settled. Chanel received $400,000 in cash, representing wartime profits from Chanel No. 5 sales. She received a 2% running royalty on all Chanel products and a perpetual monthly stipend that paid all her expenses for the rest of her life. In exchange, she sold the full rights to her name to Parfums Chanel. She never made perfume again. In 1954, at age 70, Chanel returned to Paris to restart her fashion business. She went to Pierre Wertheimer for financing. He agreed, but in return secured the rights to the Chanel name for all products, not just perfumes. Chanel's fashion lines succeeded and boosted the image of the perfume business. In the late 1950s, Pierre bought back Théophile Bader's 20% stake. In 1948, when Paul Wertheimer died, Pierre purchased his brother's shares. By the time Pierre Wertheimer died in 1965, the family controlled 90% of Parfums Chanel. When Coco Chanel died in 1971 at age 87, Pierre's son Jacques acquired her remaining 10%. The Wertheimers owned 100% of the operation and held all rights to the Chanel name. Jacques Wertheimer inherited the company in 1965. He was uninterested in fashion, and he focused on horse breeding and racing. Under his management, Chanel's sales and reputation declined. In 1974, his sons Alain, age 25, and Gerard, age 23, convinced the board to let them take over. In 1983, they hired Karl Lagerfeld as creative director. Lagerfeld later described the company as a sleeping beauty. "Not even a beautiful one," he said. She snored. His designs blended Chanel's history with modern aesthetics, and sales increased substantially. When Jacques Wertheimer died in 1996, Alain and Gerard were officially named co-owners. Each is assumed to own 50% of the company. After Lagerfeld's death in 2019, Virginie Viard, Lagerfeld's longtime deputy and successor, continued his vision while maintaining the brand's luxury pricing power. Chanel is now the world's second largest luxury brand, competing directly with Hermès as one of the few remaining family-controlled luxury houses in an industry dominated by conglomerates. It remains entirely privately held by the Wertheimer family. It has never gone public and has never been part of major luxury conglomerates like LVMH or Kering. For most of its history, it published no financial information. That changed in 2018 when the company disclosed consolidated financial results for the first time in its 108-year history. Revenue in 2017 was $9.6 billion. By 2022, revenue had reached $17.2 billion. In 2024, Chanel reported net revenue of $18.7 billion. Bloomberg values Chanel using enterprise value to sales multiples compared to publicly traded luxury peers like L'Oréal, Estée Lauder, and Prada, which explains how the Wertheimer wealth calculation reaches astronomical levels. The Wertheimers extract substantial sums from this revenue through dividends. In 2021, the family received $5 billion. In 2022, $1.7 billion. In 2023, $5.7 billion. Over those 3 years, the Wertheimer family received $12.4 billion in dividend payouts. These payments go to a holding company based in the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands does not impose taxes on dividends for local businesses, and the UK, where Chanel is based, does not typically levy withholding taxes on dividends paid overseas. The family's combined net worth has grown substantially. In June 2024, their wealth was estimated at $108 billion, a 19% increase in 1 year, and a 26% increase since 2021. As of December 2024, Alain Wertheimer's individual net worth was estimated at $41.4 billion. Gerard Wertheimer's net worth was also estimated at $41.4 billion. During this same period, Chanel raised prices repeatedly, demonstrating the pricing power inherent in Veblen goods, where higher prices can actually increase desirability among luxury consumers. In 2021 alone, the price of Chanel's medium classic flat bag was increased 3 times. In January 2021, it sold for $6,800. By July 2021, $7,800. By November 2021, $8,800. 3 price increases, totaling $2,000 in 1 year. Chanel attributed the increases to exchange rate fluctuations and changes in production costs. The price hikes occurred during a period when the company was generating record profits and paying out billions to its owners. Publicly traded luxury companies face shareholder scrutiny, earnings calls, analyst questions, and market discipline. Chanel operates with no such oversight. The Wertheimers decide prices, dividend policies, and reinvestment strategies without public accountability. When they extracted $5.7 billion in 2023, there was no shareholder vote, no public disclosure requirement, and no constraint beyond their own discretion. The workers who produce Chanel products, the suppliers who provide materials, and the retail employees who sell the goods do not benefit from this structure in the same way. The family's dividend payouts represent value extracted from the company rather than reinvested in wages, supplier payments, or operational improvements. In 2022, Chanel's operating profit was $5.8 billion. The family took nearly all of it as dividends. The Wertheimers maintain extreme privacy. They rarely appear in public and never give interviews. Gerard Wertheimer told the New York Times in 2002 that the family never talks. "It's about Coco Chanel," he said. "It's about Karl Lagerfeld. It's about everyone who works and creates at Chanel. It's not about the Wertheimers. When they attend fashion shows, they sit in the third or fourth row. They drive themselves in nondescript cars. They don't inaugurate store openings or speak to the press." Alain lives in a Fifth Avenue apartment in New York City. Gerard lives in Geneva, Switzerland. Beyond Chanel, the family has diversified into other investments. They own prestigious French vineyards, including Chateau Rauzan-Segla and Chateau Canon, as well as vineyards in California's Napa Valley. They operate thoroughbred horse racing businesses in the United States and France. Through their family office, Moose Partners, they hold a 5.7% stake in Olaplex, a hair care business. They have invested in Ulta Beauty, biotechnology companies, healthcare providers, and digital advertising firms. In 2023, they were among a group of France's wealthiest families that helped take Rothschild & Co. investment bank private. The concentration of wealth in the Wertheimer family represents a broader pattern in the luxury goods industry and reflects growing wealth inequality measured by the Gini coefficient in developed economies. A small number of families and conglomerates control the majority of high-end brands. LVMH, controlled by Bernard Arnault, Metz, owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, and dozens of other labels. Kering, controlled by the Francois Pinault family, owns Gucci, Saint Laurent, and Balenciaga. The Wertheimers control Chanel. When Chanel raises prices by $2,000 in a year, it signals to other brands that the market will tolerate aggressive pricing in the era of conspicuous consumption. When luxury conglomerates consolidate control, they reduce competition and increase their ability to set terms with suppliers, which affects wages and working conditions throughout the supply chain. The Wertheimers' ability to extract over $12 billion in dividends over 3 years while raising prices demonstrates the asymmetry between ownership and consumption. The family takes billions out of the company. Consumers pay higher prices to fund those payouts. Workers see limited wage growth. Suppliers face pressure to reduce costs. The public has no visibility into these decisions because Chanel is private. In 2022, former Unilever executive Lena Nair took over as Global Chief Executive Officer of Chanel, the first non-family member to hold the position. The move, combined with Karl Lagerfeld's death in 2019 and the first publication of financial results in 2018, sparked speculation that the Wertheimers might sell the company or take it public. Management has consistently denied those rumors. In 2018, Philippe Blondiau, Chanel's chief financial officer, stated that Chanel will remain private and independent. Maintaining private ownership allows the family to avoid the transparency, governance, and accountability requirements that come with being a public company. They do not have to disclose executive compensation, justify dividend policies to outside shareholders, or answer questions about pricing strategies or labor practices in earnings calls. They can move headquarters to London, structure dividends through the Cayman Islands, and make decisions based entirely on family interests. The economic consequence is a luxury goods market dominated by a small number of ultra-wealthy families who operate with minimal oversight. The Wertheimers, the Arnauts, and the Pinauts control brands that generate hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue and employ hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. Their pricing decisions, labor practices, and capital allocation strategies shape the industry. Because their companies are private or controlled through family voting structures, the public has limited ability to influence or understand those decisions. For workers in the luxury goods industry, this concentration of ownership means that employment terms, wages, and working conditions are determined by family offices and private boards rather than public shareholders or labor representatives. For suppliers, it means negotiating with entities that have enormous bargaining power and no requirement to disclose their terms. For consumers, it means paying prices set by families who face no market discipline or competitive pressure because they control irreplaceable brands. The Wertheimer family's wealth came from a partnership agreement signed in 1924 that gave them 70% ownership of a perfume company. They defended that ownership through World War II, consolidated control over the following decades, and now extract billions annually while maintaining total privacy. Chanel remains private. The Wertheimers remain among the wealthiest people in the world. Revenue continues to grow, prices continue to rise, and the public has no say in how a company worth hundreds of billions operates, how much it pays its owners, or what it charges for products that bear the name of a woman who spent 20 years trying to regain control of her own brand. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts in the comments below. We will see you in the next one.